Brought to you by Penguin.
Safe by K Barnett. Read for you by Brittany Pressley. To Laura, with whom I once rode a Ferris wheel to the stars, from which I have never, ever come down. Prologue. The first poster was put up within a day of the disappearance. In the end, there'd be over 1,500 of them, plastering what seemed like every available inch of the village. All of them mass-produced by the owner of a local printing company, who barely knew the scared out of their minds parents, but figured it was the least he could do. It was nail-gunned to a telephone pole in front of Fredo's famous pizzeria, an example of doubly false advertising, since its pizza wasn't famous or even well-known, and the pizzeria wasn't owned by anyone named Fredo. The owner was a Serbian named Miche, who thought an Italian name made more fiscal sense. Being an aficionado of The Godfather, he'd picked Fredo over Michael, which seemed to him too anglicized. Like many pizza parlors throughout Long Island, it had evolved into a hangout for the too-young-to-drink crowd, and when Miche would shoo the local adolescents out of the store at closing time, the reigning 14-year-old wise-ass would turn and utter this famous, if misquoted line, "You broke my heart, Fredo. You broke my heart." What was really breaking hearts was the subject of the poster placed on the telephone pole outside Fredo's on July 10th, 2007. Missing, it said in black letters printed in Helvetica bold, and underneath, a picture of 6-year-old Jennifer Crystal. It was her first grade school photo. A little girl all dolled up and smiling for the camera. It was a dichotomy that was particularly hard to comprehend for any parent strolling by. What was innocence doing plastered to a telephone pole? Telephone poles were for garage sale notices, local politicians' campaign posters, and handyman ads with phone number slips hanging down like stripper tassels. They weren't for a 6-year-old girl with a traffic-stopping smile who'd walk down the block to her best friend's house one day. Yes, she was just 6, but it was only 2 houses away and it was summer. And it wasn't like they lived in the projects or something. This was upper-class suburbia, for God's sake. And her mom, Lori, had walked her to their screen door and even stood and watched a bit while Jenny skipped down the front steps, whereupon Jenny disappeared. Never showed up at her best friend Tony's front door. Never came home. Poof. That was hard for people to get their head around. A child just disappearing like that. Like one of those sequined assistants in a magic act. It made existence seem too ephemeral. Made them question their assumptions about everyday life. If little girls could just disappear into thin air, then what else was possible? People didn't know quite what to say to Laurie and Jake either. It was Jake who'd put up that first poster. People would generally avoid them if they had enough time to see them coming. Neighbors would duck into a store or pantomime that they must have left something in their car, so that they had an excuse to turn around and go look for it. It was as if grief was catching. But really, what do you say to parents whose kid had been stolen from them, whose only daughter had been taken God knows where? 4 states away by now, or in some dank basement, or the kind of place you didn't even want to think about. At first, there were some impressive and enthusiastic community efforts at pitching in. Not just from the owner of the local printing company, but from Laurie and Jake's inner circle, the Kellys, whose daughter, Tony, was the best friend Jennifer had been on her way to see that afternoon, and the Shapiros, Kleins, and Moonies, who were all fixtures at Laurie and Jake's 4th of July barbecues. The blowouts always featured a kick-ass fireworks show, courtesy of Jake's stepbrother, Brent, who drove up a truckload of cherry bombs and bottle rockets from North Carolina, and, rumor had it, sold them on consignment to the neighbor.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?